What is up, guys? It's your boy Phil Shocker, the 96 Hedgehog here, and we are back for the Lenud, aka Landorus division of the JDDL. No, Owen, it's not the Lenud, it's Lenud. Sorry, I had to get my boy OG Obana out of the way so he wouldn't say that word. But it does give him an option now to comment on this video for the algorithm. Yes! But in all seriousness, we are here for the Landorus division of the JDDL. Real quick again, guys. I'm gonna probably stop explaining it because it's gonna be just so repetitive. Basically, my buddy John can't no longer really do streams and stuff for his leagues and for his community just because life's getting to him right now. Obviously, he needs to take care of his girlfriend, his daughter, his personal self, especially with doing with work and trying to keep up to date with what he wants to do. And he's just been feeling burnout from Pokemon, and just kind of wants to just enjoy whatever free time and enjoy what he wants to do. So I'm doing this to help him out and take some of the load off for him. But if you guys are excited, leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Join the Fish Shocker crew today because we're filling with the king of the crew. And with that being said, let's talk about these Landorus matchups because who do we have some all stars in this one, and it's gonna be a very interesting one here. So with this, let's real quick talk about the teams. We have the coach of the Indiana Pikachu's going number one. Believe it or not, is Obo. This dude gets shafted and loses games from UMBL and GBU, yet when it comes to showdown, he's undefeated. Obo, my guy, what are you doing? And anyways, we have the Underworld Ursaludos, which is coached by Ursalumitsa. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. We have the Hershey Brewers and my boy Cameron. We have the Vegas Corviknights, coached by Not the Zodiac. We have the coach of the Twin Leaf Town Church, which is Los Diote. Los Diota? Sorry again if I'm butchering that name. The Anaheim Azumaros, I'm pretty sure that's how it says, by Zach McBuckets. We have the Yama Blues by everyone's favorite Kehan, and of course everyone's fan favorite of the server, the NSW Relors, and Coach Crab with two B's because he's cool like that. So real quick, let's talk about these matchups. We will have the Indiana Pikachu's taking on NSW Redlors. We will have the Underworld Ursalunas taking on the Anaheim Azumaros. We will have the Hershey Bewares taking on the Yama Blues. And we have the Vegas Corviknights versus the Twin Leaf Town Turtwicks. And I love that logo. Look how cute Turtwig is. Yeah, he's in the best Torchic starter. But anyways, let's talk about these matchups here. So real quick. And of course, Obo is on the bottom. Well, we're talking about Crab first because Crab deserves it. Crab's team is Iron Valiant, Landorus Therian, Scizor, Rotom Wash, Tyranitar, Iron Jugulis, Toxapex, Sinistcha, Lone Raichu, Lurantis, and Pit Urchin. Now, I'm not gonna, and looking at the Terra Captains, they have Alolan Raichu and Lurantis with Flying and Electric and Water and Fighting, which I think are a little bit better for Terra types in this one versus the other Lurantis we've seen. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Crab's team here is definitely really weird in my opinion. I think the Tyranitar is so out there, it's so random. Like, you do have decent enough counterplay towards the fighting offensive things. But in my opinion, it's just a weird mon on this team. I love Iron Jugulis. That is such a slept on Pokemon that everyone just keeps not loving. Iron Valiant, amazing mon. Rotom Wash, fantastic. Toxapex kind of sucks. Obviously, a little gimmicky with having a Panarchin with Alolan Raichu, so you kind of know that would kind of be forced if you're going to go with team strats like that. But again, otherwise, I really think this team is like, I'm not going to say it's slow because obviously you have Iron Valiant, Raichu with or without terrain, obviously, and what's the third one? And Jugulis, right? You have decent speed, but in my opinion, you have a team that plays a little bit more of a defensive backbone than offensive. Like, I understand like things like Oranges can be offensive while still being defensive with having no speed. Sinistcha is more towards being more of a defensive setup Pokemon versus a offensive breaker, unless you want to set up to be an offensive breaker. Landorus can definitely play offensive, but it definitely has one more of a kind of more defensive utility role Pokemon in that regards. So, but I do personally think that this team is probably not done Crab much favors, but I think Crab's been really good with the team. It's gonna be very interesting to see how Crab's gonna use this team against Obo. Because for one, I don't know what Obo's team looks like, but I am gonna be concerned for Crab just because again, I do think he has some random pieces on this team that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But it's Crab. He was able to pick up a KO with a Cub Fu. I believe in the Crab. Up next, we've got Owen, and I swear if Owen was right beneath him. Owen was basically beneath him. I hate it here. But Obo's team definitely kind of looks somewhat close to an Obo team just because there's a Mimikyu, not because of the Snorlax. I'm just kidding. He's got Spectre, Greninja, Zapdos, Galar, Snorlax, Spencer, Dippa, 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 Mimikyu, Mamoswine, Thundurus, Earthworm Jim, Hisuian Quillfish, and Draco, with Terracaptors being the Mimikyu and the Draco with Ghost and Fighting, and also Fire and Poison. Looking at Obo's team, why is Obo drafting real Pokemon? Obo doesn't draft real Pokemon. I love you, Obo. I hope you know that. That's a true friendship right there, guys. If you can't give your friends like crap or shit, then they're not real friends, especially if they know how to take it right. Come on. But anyways, I actually kind of like Obo's team here. I do think Obo though really has no way to remove hazards, and that's what's going to be the downfall of his team. Obviously, he must have not been able to worry about hazards too much because he's been able to play around them. But looking at Owen's team, like spikes and rocks really are just going to destroy this man. I like that he's gotten two mascots on his team. He grabbed the Snorlax, which is his OG, and I believe it still is. I don't know why he changed his profile picture to make it look like it wasn't. In Snorlax, and now apparently it looks like a new mascot being the Mimikyu, which he's been a Mimikyu stan. Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm a Mimikyu stan, and I love my Mimikyu. I mean, I'm not gonna agree that it's the best fairy or the best ghost type. It's definitely a good Pokemon. I really like it. It's still amazing, but he's been on a Mimikyu rant lately, and I'm kind of concerned about him because Halloween's been over for almost a month now, and he still hasn't changed his picture. Send help. I'm just kidding. But Obo's team, actually, I think is going to look really good into Crab's team. I think Obo's team just kind of just checks all the boxes. I think he's forcing that Valiant to be booster speed in order to be able to outspeed things like the Greninja if it's not Battle Bomb boosted already. The Zapdos if it's Scarfed. Same with Mamoswine if it's already Scarfed. You know, it's going to be one of those things. I do think Iron Valiant really runs house on Obo's team. And Obo's going to have to really play around that thing. I mean, yes, he has two fairy types, but as soon as he Terastallizes that Mimikyu, it's going to lose that fairy typing. And again, if it Terrasses to a fighting type, which Obo, I swear, if you do, you are throwing games on purpose. But I do think Obo does not have a bad matchup, though. I do think Obo kind of matches up pretty well into his team because I do think he's going to have a good speed amount of control going into this game, and I think he's going to really be pressuring some of his offense. Like, I think Mamoswine pressures Crab's team hard because of that priority Ice Shard, and it's going to really force him out of things. I do think Obo is going to try to take advantage of also potential hazard stacking as well because Crabs also has a team that's not really the best in terms of hazard removal. And Quillfish can actually be low-key a threat if you're not careful, like I was. And Obo, I swear, if you bring Draco and you get one kill with it and you still win the game, whenever you get monetized, I will give you $100, but only if you win and if you get monetized. But in all seriousness, I actually think I would give matchup to Obo just because Obo's team just looks so good into just about any team you can kind of look at. And I just think when it comes down to it, I think Obo just has a really good defensive core between, Quillfish, Earthworm, Pheasantipity, Snorlax, that defensive core is really good. And he's got great offensive pieces that pair really well with Spectre, Zapdos, Greninja, Mamo, and Mimikyu, and even Thundurus. I think Thundurus is going to be really good support in this matchup with either potentially, with taunting or thunder waving and stuff like that. So really, really think Obo is going to take the matchup here. So unfortunately, Crab, you're the fan favorite. I love you, Crab, with 2Bs, but I think I'm going to pick Owen for this matchup. Up next, we have Kahan and the Ursalunas, which are, again, going to be right there. We have Ursalamets. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Also, I find it funny that you decided for your team Rich and you went Uwu. I love that. We have Florges. Pick one Florges, ladies and gentlemen. And then Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Weavile, Ogerpon, Rotom Heat, Hisuian Guja, Jonfan, Hisuian Zorak, Muk, Kramer, and Mew. With Terra Captains being the Florges and the Muk with Ground for both, and Water and Dark. So, looking at this team, I guess we could try to make this team composition work with them being top and bottom like this. With Khan's team, he has Torn T, Sneasler's, Ting Lu, Skeletors, Kilowattrel, Slowbro, Gudra, Battle of the Gudras, Galawazine, Kamala, Grafia, and Zork, with Terra Captains being the Kamala and Zork, with Normal Ground and Dark Ghost. So, looking at these teams, Torn can kind of really go in on this team for an offensive standpoint. I don't think you really bring as a more defensive piece. I definitely think you go something along the lines of potentially mix, physical, special, whatever you want to go. Maybe it's something like a Yachi Berry set potentially. I do think things like the Rotom Heat are going to look really good in this matchup because they really check a lot of things. I will say though that Sneasler does look pretty damn scary into this matchup, as there's not a lot of counterplay you have to it besides Don Fan and maybe Muck, but and potentially the Florges. I do think hazards are going to be a massive problem for Ursa. I'm just going to call you Ursa just for short. Unless Cramorant still keeps defog, but even then, if Cramorant's keeping defog, you're forced to defog. But I do believe that Floor does not have defog. Hopefully, it gets in the DLC because it deserves to have it because it makes sense. But I think Ursa's team is going to be more towards playing as a defensive support team. Like half the team, I think, is definitely going to be a little more towards defensive and stuff. But I do think, looking at this team, there's a very hard play around when it comes to an Urshifu. There is very hard counterplay to that. I do think, though, that the Zoroark will be the ace in this league. Whoa, hold on. Hold on. We have the battle of not only the Gudras, but the Zoroarks. What the heck? This is going to be a hype match. I do think I'm leaning towards Khan in this matchup, just because I do think his defensive backbone pairs a lot. I think it's done a little bit better than this team's defense against Ursa's defensive background. But again, it's near here or there, and we don't know specifically what's going to happen. Excuse me. But it's going to be very interesting to see how these teams play out. I think if I have to pick matchup, like I said, I think I'm going to give it to Khan. But again, I don't know. I only know Khan a little bit, not like a ton. I have no idea how Ursa is as a player. I never watched them, so this matchup can definitely go potentially either or. But for me, I'm going to put my money on Khan for this matchup. Next up, we have the Bewares versus the Anaheim Azumarill. So again, it's gonna be one of those things where we have to do this. But let's do Anaheim first. We'll do Zach. Zach's team is Enamorus, Jirachi, Hydreigon, Milotic, Hisuian Arcanine, Okidoki, Mousehold, Crocodile, Toadstool, Cryogonal, and Haunter, with Terra Captains being Mousehold in Normal Ghost, Haunter in Ghost Dark. Cameron's team is Landorus Therian. He picked up the mascot. Let's go. Slowking Galar, Rillaboom, Cinderace, Vikavolt, Conkeldurr, Azumarill, Regidrago, Primal Gas, Sandslash, and Urshifu with Terra Captains being Vikavolt with Ice and Ground, and Electric and Poison with Sandslash. So this matchup's gonna be very interesting, I feel like. This is a matchup to where good bulk versus good offense. You know what I'm saying? I think in terms of how these teams are gonna play out, do you think Cam will have a better offensive push in this matchup? But Zach's team has really good defensive pieces. Like, I do think a defensive Croak is really good in this matchup to take some hits, like AV Croak potentially, to really kind of punish some offense and stuff like that. And Namorous is looking very scary into this matchup, as a Namorous can kind of just click buttons for free against everything on my Cameron's team, which I think is really scary there. But if I'm gonna be honest, I think I'm gonna give the matchup to Cameron because I do think Cameron kind of pressures this team more offensively. And one of the main reasons why I say he does is because of, honestly, Rillaboom. Rillaboom is very hard for Zach to take on in this matchup. Because Rillaboom, especially if it's Choice Band Rillaboom, I don't know. It would be a little bit of a iffy set to bring Choice Band in this matchup. But if Choice Band Rillaboom came and, like, say, like an Amherst is weakened to just under 50%, more than likely under that 50%, that thing can just kill with a grassy glide. Like Jirachi, if it gets whittled down to around 25%, can die to glide. Same thing with Hydreigon, or something like AV with Drain Punch and Knockoff and Grassy Glide and stuff like that. I think Rillaboom is going to actually be the low key threat against Zach that I think Zach's going to have to be very careful about. So if I'm gonna pick a person to win this matchup, I'm not picking him just because he's my boy and he's a good pal of mine. I'm picking him just because I think the matchup wise, especially with that Landorus. Landorus looks insane to his team. I am going to be going with Cameron for this matchup just because I think Cam just team matches up so well into their team. So it's definitely going to be a very, I think, an offensive matchup here. But I do think Cam is going to pull with the W. And last but not least, we have not Zodiac and the. And I'm sorry I'm stuttering here. My cat is just being annoying right now because he just wants to give me attention and hop in front of the computer. So hopefully he stops. Versus Lost here. I need to get where Lost is at. So yeah, we're gonna probably have to separate these ones here. They have, though, Lost's team with the Twin Leaf Turtwigs have Palafin, Zapdos, Ironmoth, Glamora, Salamence, Grimmsnarl, Palossand, Hisuian, Lilligant, Cyclosaur, Chimecho, and Pineco, which everyone wanted to grab Pineco. There's Keith, that popular. You guys don't know what Keith is, basically a Star's boy. Star has always drafted a Pineco and has actually made Pineco work before, so everyone has now been inspired by Star to draft Pineco. But looking at Terra Captains being Palossand, Chimecho, and Pinecone with Watergrass, Steel Psychic, and Normal Ghost. So with that being said, looking at this team, there a decent amount of hazard removal with Mortal Spin and Rapid Spin from Cyclosaur. I don't think this team's as defensive as I would like it to pair with some of the offense it has. Like, don't get me wrong, like Zapdos can definitely be very good defensively. Grimmsnarl's decently defensive with having screen support, and obviously having the screen support as well. Just over there. Palestine is decently bulky. Chimecho's okay bulky. Do think the offense, however, is a little limited in my opinion, but offense in Palafin, Iron Moth, Lilligant, and great options of offensive capabilities from the Zapdos, Anklemore, and even the Salamence as well. This team looks terrifying. This team, I think, kind of has a really good momentum base with having, again, flip turn, U-turn momentum, with also volt switch momentum as well, and just all good, great support options and stuff. I do think this team can match up pretty well. I do think it's a little bit Mon heavy down because you might be pressuring down. You might be able to rely on gimmicks and stuff like that for Mons to be brought. So this will be very interesting. But I do think this is a really good team. I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how Zodiac's team's going to be. Zodiac, oh, they just want to go Sun and say, let's F it, let's just destroy everything. Zodiac's team has Roaring Moon, Torkoal, Annihilate, Sandy Shocks, Bronzong, Sylveon, Staraptor, Scovian, Gastrodon, Lycanroc, and Weezing, with the Terra Captain being Scovian, and Ground and Fairy. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think Zodiac's Sun team is disgusting, especially when you have an Annihilate, but Annihilate in the third round, by the way, as well. That's kind of crazy. I do think, though, if there was option to grab a good, reliable, another good Protosynthesis Mon to pair with Roaring Moon and Sandy Shocks, it also wasn't just a Chlorophyll Swooper with Skullvent, I would have liked that better. I also don't know how I feel about Gastrodon on this team, because I feel like it's one of those waters that kind of needs its water stab, but it can kind of just play out as a really good defensive ground for hazard setting, but I don't know if I feel like that's the best water. It's definitely a good water. I'm not gonna say it's a bad water, of course, obviously, but I'm still a little indifferent about it, and that's just me, obviously. But I love the offense here. You've got a potential chance to run a Choice Band Roaring Moon, a a Specs Sandy Shock, and just a modest Nuke Killer Skull Villain, and just offense all the walls, dude. The offense, which is a tiny bit limited on this team, I feel like, but the defense around this offense is really good. And even Annihilate can play as a fantastic defensive setup, sweeper, and win. I love using Annihilate, and I love just building this thing's defenses, custom tailoring it every single week. It is such a good Pokemon just to play with. Even if you're not the best with this Pokemon, it's just a fun Pokemon to build defensively because you just custom tailor those things so well, and it's just going to be a menace. It's just an awesome Pokemon. I do think, in terms of the matchup, I will say Zodiac does have to be careful because Hisuian Lilligant could potentially be Chlorophyll in this matchup, which I definitely think Zodiac's going to take in strong strong consideration for this matchup. But it would kind of pressure that Palafin to potentially not be brought, especially that Iron Moth as well, getting sun boosted fiery dances, especially if he gets a booster energy and it's faster than everything. That's a big scariness right there. But I do think I'm going to probably give Zodiac matchup here. I think Zodiac's team is really, really good in terms of balancing out its defenses and offenses so well. And I just overall think it's just going to be one of the tougher matchups for Loss to have to deal with it. So that's going to be my predictions there. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Put in the comments who you believe is going to win the Lenud division, the Landorus division. And for all the Landorus division coaches, let me know who you think is going to walk out with the victory of the Lenud season. Or if you think it's going to be you, or if it's going to be someone else, let us know in the comments down below. With that being said, though, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.